welcome to MeowMix, the Carolina Panthers podcast. My name is Steven.
My name is Jerry.
And we are here to discuss week 4 in the NFL season. Carolina Panthers taking on the Arizona Cardinals here at Bank of America Stadium. What's probably going to be a pretty wet and wild game with the hurricane coming through. Although I did hear today that maybe it's going to blow through here, on Saturday and early Sunday morning. So we'll see. We got the turf though.
So
so that's
it'll
good.
be wet.
It's going to be real slick out there on that turf.
Wet plastic. Yay!
Yeah.
Against our division rivals. Oh no, wait. We just play them every year.
Kind of feels like that. I meant to look up today if the Cardinals were the team that the Panthers had the most or the best winning percentage against, because they have a really good winning percentage against the Cardinals all time. They're like 14-5 against them all time. 6 in a row. Average margin of victory is like close to 20 points a game. Like it's pretty good, pretty legit. Yeah. We own the Cardinals.
So far, let's.
I mean, honestly, we do. Like, since we became a franchise, we have owned this team through countless coaches and quarterbacks and whatever else. For some reason, and we even talked about this in our season preview. Didn't have the numbers or anything, but we just talked about how good the Panthers always play against the Cardinals. Yeah. It just always seems that way. So, jinx. Got that out of the way.
Knocking on some wood here. I got my desk here. I don't want to knock too loud and make my dogs bark, but
knock on wood. So that's what we'll be talking about today. Would like to extend a request to everyone out there listening. Give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. We're getting close to 1,000 subs. We're, I think, 30 away as of right now. So would mean a lot to us to hit that 1,000 mark here before the end of the season or before the end of the year. So do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. But before we get to the game preview, let's talk about a little bit of news.
Yes, Panthers cut Aaron Mosby on Monday and added him back to the practice squad today. Mosby has been in uniform for Carolina's all 3 games. He was a standard elevation off the practice squad the first 2 outings, with his only action being 16 snaps on special teams against the Giants. Not surprised. I have a feeling he's going to be one of those guys like Davion Nixon that are just going to bounce up and down, up and down. Means he's valued. He's just, getting elevated.
He's the last guy on the roster, essentially, right? Like he's good enough to be on the active roster every once in a while, but not good enough to keep the job, right? Or at least, maybe not, I shouldn't say not good enough, but that's a position where we have some depth, right? So
and obviously special teams. I mean, So hey, you never know. He may be one of those guys that looks decent in special teams, and if they need a guy who's injured, that's a good special teams guys. They raise him up.
Yeah, and Davion Nixon, I believe that I read that he had been signed to the active roster.
Yes, he has been signed to.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, he was signed right before the last game, and he's staying there. They haven't moved him back down.
That's what I mean. Like, I think he's there for good, at least for a while. So.
They could release him and sign him back to the practice squad like they've done multiple times.
Yeah. Well, either way, good for Davion Nixon. Good for Aaron Mosby. He's back on the practice squad. So he's a undrafted guy, but they kind of think a lot of him. So a developmental piece.
Yeah.
We'll see him back on the active roster before the end of the season. I almost guarantee it. So, all right. Well, Jerry, let's talk about some PFF grades from last week, right? I want to talk a little bit about how certain players did against the Saints last week. We wanted to maybe do this every preview, I guess. Just kind of do a little quick look back at the previous week with the PFF grades and see if there's any surprises that snap out of us. Obviously, on offense, number 1 player was Laviska Shenault Jr. with a 95 PFF grade, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, when you're out there for 6 passing plays, 1 touchdown, 1 first down, I mean...
Yeah. And yeah. And I don't know if this counts his return grade as well, or if that's a separate grade for him. But obviously, he had some nice returns as well.
This is overall. It
Okay.
doesn't matter.
So
Just
he was out there for 11 total plays, including special teams. So 95 for him. That's pretty great. Number 2 is Christian McCaffrey. No big surprise there with 79.6. Taylor Moton and Austin Corbett make the top 5 from the offensive line. And then Chuba Hubbard, number 4, with a 67.8.
yeah,
He had a one nice run, and I guess that was enough for
yeah.
the little amount of plays he ran.
Yeah, he didn't have many snaps. I don't have the snap count in front of me, but I can't imagine it was that high.
It was less than 10. I know that. And then just kind of looking at the bottom 5 here, Robbie Anderson, Ian Thomas, both around 50. Baker Mayfield with a 46. Pat Elflein, the only member of the offensive line on the bottom 5 list, with a 45.4, and then Tommy Tremble. So both of our tight ends in the bottom 5 on the offensive grades.
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably going to be the standard for this team until we get a decent tight end.
I mean, they're supposed to be blocking tight ends, and they don't seem to be blocking that well. I mean, Steven Sullivan has the best tight end PFF grade we have.
Yeah.
And then that's, then Giovanni Ricci. So, I don't know, man.
Yeah, and these are the overall grades. These aren't just the receiving grades or something. These are the overall grades. So.
Tommy Tremble has an awful run blocking. He's at a 39. That's like me going out there trying to block somebody.
Isn't that why we drafted him too? He was that was this big calling card. He was just a great blocking tight end.
He had a lot of athletic ability and stuff like that. But at 39, like I said, that's like me getting pushed over by somebody. At least I tried.
Yeah.
Grade.
Yeah, he's got some work to do. I'm not gonna say bust yet, but he's got some work to do. On defense, we've got J.C. Horn leading the group with 92.6. Tell you what, man. I mean, we've talked a lot about J.C. Horn and how we, if we could go back and redo that pick, we would take Micah Parsons or maybe Rashawn Slater or Justin Fields. A lot of people say J.C. Horn is really good. He is really good.
He's a top 5 corner in the league now.
He is a lockdown corner. He might not get a ton of interceptions because they're just not going to throw at him.
The quarterbacks who target him have a QB rating of 15. 15, best in the league right now.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. One interception, obviously, so far this season, but yeah, he reminds me of who's the Oakland, or I guess at the time Oakland.
Nnamdi Asomugha?
Yeah, that dude would just lock down a side of the field. He didn't put up huge interception numbers every year because he was widely considered to be the best corner.
Same with Darrelle Revis.
Right.
Both of those were at around the same time, but Darrelle Revis would do the same thing. You would lock down a side of the field.
Yeah.
He wouldn't get staggering numbers, but the reason he wouldn't get staggering numbers is the quarterback's like, no.
Yeah.
I see what you're doing. You have my guy covered. I am not targeting him.
Yeah, and that's why they went out and got C.J. Henderson too, who we'll talk about in a second, because they were hoping that he could develop into a J.C. Horn style guy on the other side. It hasn't happened yet. Shaq Thompson, number 2 on defense with a 79.1. Derek Brown, 76.8. We talked about how good he looked in the game, and the score backs it up. Davion Nixon with a 76.6. He wasn't out there a lot, so don't read too much into that. And then Frankie Luvu with a 73.6. I believe Frankie Luvu played 100% of the snaps, so that's
he did
really good. Yeah,
I remember seeing that, being like, "Wow, no breathers for you, man." Okay,
right. Hey, resting for years. He's ready to play. On the bottom 5 here, we got C.J. Henderson with a 47.2. Keith Taylor, the other corner, 44.9. Actually, got a lot of corners in the bottom 5 here. Jeremy Chin with a 43.7. That was surprising to me.
He's playing out of position. Yeah. I will scream that, but he's better at that outside linebacker position.
Yeah, I agree. Yetur with a 36.2, and then Dante Jackson with a 30.2. Now, Dante only played a few snaps, and he went out early in the game. Obviously, even came in to the game banged up. So
he gave up on 4 targets, 3 receptions for 76 yards. I'm sorry, that's not good. Even that was basically a majority of what Jameis Winston got in that first half.
Yeah. So not great there, Dante. One quarter is the best. One corner may be the best defensive player on the team, and then the other three are not as good. So, all right. Well, so Jerry, I do have a little bit of trivia for you before we get into our injuries.
Okay.
We're gonna go way back to 2015, and what is technically the 2014 playoffs, but they play them in 2015. The not the last time, but you and I attended this game, the NFC wildcard playoff game. Carolina at home facing the Cardinals. Carolina had the 7-8-1 wildcard team, or actually division winning team, made the playoffs as a division winner.
Because we had that home playoff game.
Yep. That was a monsoon. That was a cold, wet game. It was not a lot of fun to be at, but Panthers won 27-16. Jerry, the trivia question I have for you: who was the leading receiver in that game for the Panthers? And I'll give you 4 options.
Okay.
Greg Olsen, Fozzie Whitaker, Jericho Cotchery, or Corey Brown, or Philly Brown, as he is otherwise known. So Greg Olsen,
I want to say Fozzie Whitaker, because if I remember correctly, he had a couple big pass plays, but it could have been run plays too in that game.
Could have been. So you're going to say Fozzie Whitaker?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Fozzie Whitaker.
Okay, well, you are correct. It is Fozzie Whitaker. You are incorrect that he had a couple of pass plays. He had 1 reception.
For
39 yards, and that was enough. Another little fun piece of trivia about this game, Jerry. Total yards for the Arizona Cardinals in this game. Now, I'm talking total yards. 78. 78 total yards. And the Panthers had over 350, I think. So
I just remember it was a whooping. I remember
a whooping. They still scored 16 points somehow.
And I felt like that was late. I felt like those were late because I felt like we were really cold, and I was like, it's a playoff game. I don't want to leave early, but this game's out of hand.
So two of the 16 came in the second half.
Wow, so I was wrong.
They scored 14 of their points in the second quarter. They were actually leading 14-13 at halftime. And then we came back and won. But yeah, so that's a fun game to kind of go back and revisit, because this Panthers team wasn't that good. No one expected the Panthers to win that game. Arizona was 11-5 that season and took them down. Do you remember who the quarterback was for Arizona?
Carson Palmer?
No. I think Carson Palmer might have been the quarterback that season, but Ryan Lindley started that game. Ryan Lindley. That's a name you'll never hear again. All right. Let's talk some injuries, Jerry. Why don't you tell us about the Panthers injury list?
Well, as normal, Christian McCaffrey didn't practice on Wednesday, but they are being reported that he has a thigh injury. So we'll see later.
Matt mentioned that today on his press conference, that he was dealing with a thigh injury. So he didn't seem too concerned about it.
I was going to say, we'll see if he practices Thursday and Friday. That if he doesn't practice then I'm worried. They could be just listing it because, he went in, got some treatment, and it seems like Rule's putting him on the injury report every week, even if he, like he says, if he goes takes a leak, he has to.
Right. It reminds me of that year that Belichick put Tom Brady on the injury report every single week, even though you knew that he was fine. So I'm hoping that that's the case. Yeah.
J.C. Horn, cornerback, has a calf injury, limited in practice. That's a little worrisome. Ian Thomas, tight end, ankle, limited practice. Doesn't produce much on the field.
Right, not worried.
Stanley Thomas Oliver, cornerback, Achilles, limited practice. Xavier Wood, safety, hamstring, limited practice. And Laviska Chenault, wide receiver, hamstring, limited practice. I do worry about those hamstring injuries because they can kind
Hmm.
of linger, and all of a sudden they're limited practice to no practice, or even full practice to no practice.
Yeah, those soft tissue injuries, even McCaffrey with the thigh. I mean, it's, again, if he comes out in practice tomorrow, no big deal. But um, Stanley Thomas Oliver, I think, played last week with that Achilles injury as well, so it doesn't seem like that's too big of a deal. All right. For the Cardinals, we got Kelvin Beachum, tackle.
I was gonna
What?
ask, do you want to take a breath here because this is a long one?
Yeah, it is. It is. Kelvin Beachum, Marquise Brown, Zach Ertz. They all did not practice due to rest. So that's a tackle, a wide receiver, and a tight end. Rodney Hudson, center, did not practice with a knee. Uh, all the rest of these guys I'm reading did not practice, by the way. Rashard Lawrence, nose tackle with a hand. Justin Pugh, guard with an elbow. Zeke Turner, linebacker with an ankle. J.J. Watt, defensive end with a calf. A.J. Green, wide receiver with a knee. The rest of these folks were limited in practice. Zaven Collins, linebacker with a shoulder. James Conner, running back with a knee. Greg Dortch, wide receiver with a back. Rondell Moore, wide receiver with a hamstring. And Matt Prater, their kicker, with a right hip. So there's some guys in there. I mean,
Oh
J.J.
yeah,
Watt, of course, their best defensive player right now, or at least
you kind of
going.
wondered too. It's Wednesday, so they could be holding him out for
True,
more rest too. I mean, it's
true.
J.J. Watt. He cannot practice all week and then see him
Yeah,
on Sunday. He's going to be J.J. Watt.
yeah. Still, they're
Yeah,
on the list, so we have to assume that there's something going. They're a little banged up,
yeah.
other
I
than the
look at the
rest of
wide
guys.
receiver core realistically. Greg Dortch, who's had a really good season so far.
Mm-hmm.
Rondell Moore, a good talented receiver, not practicing, and A.J. Green not practicing
AJ
or
Green
limited
used to be
practice.
good. Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah. And then Marquise Brown, their best receiver, he's just
resting.
rest. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, he had a big game, running around. I mean, with that offense, I mean, he has to catch his breath sometime.
True, true. All right. Well, that's the injuries. We're going to pay the bills here real quick, and we'll be right back with the preview. Jerry, do you like CBD products?
I do. I have one every night before I go to
Ah,
bed.
do you? I do too. Where did you get those
I
CBD
get them
products?
at cbdx.com.
Yeah, CBDX.com. They've got everything you need. Gummies. That's what Jerry and I like. We like the gummies. Okay.
Hey,
Jerry's wife also likes the gummies, from what I hear.
yes.
Yeah.
She also likes the vapes. I was kind of shocked. She got a free vape, and now she uses it occasionally at night instead of the gummy. I
Hmm.
was like, oh, okay.
Interesting. Yeah, I have not tried the vape, but they do have vapes. They have flour. They have the disposable vapes. So they also have inserts for like a vape pen, I guess. Um, CBDX.com. Check them out. Use promo code Meow for 20% off, and you'll get your free gift as well. Um, you get a little percentage off. We get a little percentage back, so it helps the show out. Doesn't cost you anything but the cost of the CBD product. So check them out, cbdx.com, promo code Meow, and we'll be right back.
And we are back, and we're going to go ahead and start diving into this Cardinals game. Panthers are currently sitting at 1.5 or 2-point favorites, depending on where you go. Over under is at 43. Uh, they're favorite, but are they? It's more almost like a toss up if you give the 3 points for the home team.
Yeah, typically you do give the 3 points to the home team. I mean, at least we're favored, I guess. Um,
I
will we be
guess.
favored in Arizona? Probably not.
No.
So,
The Cardinals still had high expectations this year. Let's be honest.
yeah.
I mean,
Well, they made the playoffs last year. They were like the number one team in the league through like week 10 or 11 last year, record
yeah,
wise, until the Panthers blew their doors off with Cam Newton. God, that was such a fun game last year.
that was
It
the
was.
game of last year. The
Yeah.
happiest any of us Panther fans probably felt.
Yeah. I mean, I'll never forget it. It was such a cool experience, but
Yeah.
that's not going to happen this week. Cam Newton is not going to come out of the tunnel,
Yeah.
unfortunately. or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. All right, well, let's look at some key matchups here. First thing here, really not even key matchups. It's kind of like keys to the game. Um, the Panthers have a really good opportunity here, Jerry, to start off fast. Arizona is the only team in the league that has not scored a single point in the first quarter.
Did not know that.
Yeah, they have 95 total yards in the first quarter through 3 games, tied with the Carolina Panthers for that particular stat. So, yeah.
To be fair, their offense picks up.
It does. It does. Yeah. Yeah. Now, last week with the Panthers was a little better. We got out a little earlier than we had the first 2 weeks. So I think this is a good opportunity for the Panthers. The Cardinals, I don't think are a very good team. I think the Panthers match up really well against them in almost every position group except quarterback.
Yeah,
But everywhere else, I feel like the Panthers are either equal to or better than the Cardinals position group. So really, they should be able to score points on this team.
hopefully. I mean, if you we're talking about scoring points, the most important factor is Baker Mayfield and the receivers need to play well.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield is missing 1 in 5 passes, meaning when he gets the ball off, it's not batted down. He's just off target 20% of the time.
Which honestly feels a little low. Like,
yeah,
just watching the game, that kind of surprised me when you told me that earlier. I was like, "Is that it? 20%? So 80% of the time he's on target? That seems a little low, but hey,
hey,
good
I
for him,
didn't
I
say
guess."
they don't count throwaways and they don't
Okay.
count batted passes.
Okay. Yeah, I think he
So,
has 12 batted passes.
yeah, I mean, there
That's
you
a
go.
lot. That is a
That's a
lot.
that's insane amount.
That is really
But
a lot.
but again, Arizona is giving up 281 yards per game through the air. That's 30th. Baker has to get it on. And DJ Moore, as much people as griping only 1 catch, 2 yards, he has the largest separation of any receiver out there in the game right now. But Baker's not getting him the ball. So something has to be changed.
Yeah. I just talked about how Arizona is not a very good team and the Panthers have a good opportunity. I guarantee you the, MeowMix version of the Arizona Cardinals podcast is saying the exact same thing about
Oh
the
yeah.
Panthers. Like they're saying, hey, we might be giving up 281 yards per game, but they're only they're only averaging 161. So this really should be a game that the Cardinals should be able to shut down this pass. I guarantee they're
This
saying that.
this is our get right game.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying because
Right.
they had high hopes.
Yeah.
They had Super Bowl aspirations. At least
Well,
we didn't have that. We had playoff aspirations.
right. I mean, one of the reasons that they have Super Bowl aspirations is because of their quarterback, Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Right. So our third key here is we need to contain Kyler Murray, particularly at running, because he is a very good running quarterback. He hasn't looked amazing throwing the ball this year. I think he's averaging like 63% completion percentage or so, but only 3 touchdowns, 1 interception so far this season. But even his rushing is not doing too well. He did have a really good scramble in their last game to kind of win that game for them, send them into overtime, and then they won the game. So he runs when he needs to, but his rushing is down a little this season. He's only about 60 yards, 70 yards or so on the season rushing, 1 rushing touchdown.
Yeah. And that was 2 weeks ago, not last week. They lost last week
That's
to
right.
the Rams.
That was against the Raiders. But the last time the Panthers did play Kyler Murray, well, this is 2020. Is that right?
Yes, he did not play last week. He was injured,
That's
and we played Colt
right.
McCoy.
That's
So
right. So when we played him in 2020, he only had 130 yards passing, but he had 78 rushing yards. So again, we've talked about the Panthers kind of have some trouble against rushing quarterbacks. Matt Rule did address that today when he talked to reporters, and he said basically that he felt like they needed to pressure Kyler just as much as they pressured Jameis last week. And I agree. Like
oh yeah,
I think you should pressure like that every game. Why not? I mean that really worked well against Jameis last week.
I agree. I think caveat today is you may want to leave one rusher back as kind of a spy, like the Frankie Lou.
Hmm.
I hate saying it because he's dynamite, but Frankie Lou may need to be came back, or a Brian Burns. Again, hate saying
Why
that.
not? Why not Jeremy Chin?
I would love Jeremy Chin, but they want him back in safety, no man's
I
land.
mean, I feels like Jeremy Chin could be a perfect spy against Kyler. I mean, he's fast. He diagnoses plays well. He's a
He
decent
hits,
tackler. Yeah.
yeah.
I
Like
mean,
Jeremy
I
Chin,
think that's where you go.
Jeremy Chin has like a 50 PFF. You know what his highest rating is? Pass rushing at like an 80 something. It, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I looked at it earlier. I was like, see, it's just he's unfortunately not the greatest in coverage. But why do you stick him back there?
That's a good question. And I wonder if when inevitably Rule and Snow are gone, will the next defensive coordinator put Chin at a more natural position for him, or at a position that he's shown to be more productive?
Yeah, I don't know. I hope
I
so.
hope so. I hope so.
But yes, if they want to drop him down more into the box and make him the spy and say, hey, our corners need to cover one man on man, which another thing is our zone coverage is at 91% of our snaps, passing snaps.
Yeah.
So
Why is that?
I don't know.
I hate when they play zone.
I like a mix of zone and man, but the corners we have in CJ Henderson,
And
JC
JC,
Horn, Dante Jackson even
they're
is a
man corners.
fast corners.
Yeah.
So, but with CJ and JC, you get them up on the line, you mug them at the start, and you let them. They're both fast, big corners. And then again, Dante's a fast guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not gonna mug anybody, but
No, nor should he, because he gets hurt a lot. So keep him safe. Keep him safe.
yeah. But I agree. I think they do need to mix up a lot more man. Bring the blitz, keep a spy on him,
Yeah.
and see what you're paying for these corners that you think are the best position group. Because sitting in zone's great. There's a lot of benefits to it, but I personally think it would be beneficial to this Panthers team to play more man.
Let me ask you this. We've seen a lot of, we talked about a couple of the best corners in the game a few years back, right? With
Side quest.
Asamoah, Asamoah and Rivas.
Revis.
Those guys followed the best receiver
Mm-hmm.
around. Asamoah maybe not so much. I think he normally just
Oh,
shut
he
down one side
did.
of the field, but okay,
He
maybe
did
early in his career he didn't. But do you think that they should have JC do that, or should we just continue to kind of have him? Because he did not play Michael
because it
Thomas a lot last week, or
be, because they play him
Olave.
in zone. They play him in zone, so he just drops back to his zone coverage. So you don't want to mess with his head and put him in a position of a non-zone he's
Yeah, but he's
familiar
such a
with.
good man corner. Like that's what he was in college. He was great at man. And even
I
last year, when they early in the season, they played a lot of man with him.
I personally feel yes. J.C. Horn should be following Marquise Brown everywhere.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
my personal opinion.
I
But
agree. I think I'd love to see what J.C. Horn could do every week, shutting down the other team's best
yeah,
receiver.
I
Why?
I
Why
I,
not?
I agree. And then you get to see what C.J. Henderson and Dante can do man to man, which I
Yeah.
personally feel like C.J. would perform better in man to man. He doesn't have to really focus in on anything besides his man.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It'd be nice if they could, try to use their players with their best skills, right?
Yeah,
Sort of like what we're trying to talk about with our next key here, Jerry.
get the ball to CMCs with space, including in the passing game. That's a big
Yeah.
part of this. They're giving up 10 yards per reception to running backs. To mitigate JJ Watt, I think this would be a great way. Run him,
Mm-hmm.
dump the ball out to him. Then you're going to have JJ Watt not being able to focus clearly on Baker Mayfield, which he still will, but it'll help clear up some space. And I think it was like 5 or 6 receptions by the running backs, but I was like, wow. I was like going through their game. It's been 3 games, and I was like, Well, that seems like it could be taken advantage of with CMC.
Yeah, I
If
mean that's something we haven't seen yet. The Panthers' offensive game plan is, heavily getting the ball to CMC in the passing game. Last week they got him in the running game quite a bit. I think he had 24, 25 rushes.
hmm
Um, I would prefer to see if he's getting 25 to 27 touches a game like he got last week. I would prefer to see him get 7, 8 targets slash catches and then make 16, 17 rushes, right?
yeah,
Because he's such a good. I mean, we talk about it every week. He's such a good receiver.
and not only that, like I hate saying this because the week before, but Chuba Hubbard looked pretty good.
Well, he had one good run at least.
Like you gotta at least give it to him.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is they brought in Foreman. He didn't even play last week. He was healthy. He was
hmm
active, but he didn't even play. I think he had like 3 snaps or something. Didn't get the ball. Yeah, line CMC up in the slot and put Foreman or Chuba in the backfield. Play them at the same time. What's wrong with that? Get weapons out there. Run some 4 receiver sets. They haven't done that this year.
Put him out wide. Put him
Yeah,
out wide. Put
yeah.
him and Chuba out there, or put Laviska Chenault behind, as running back. Put Christian McCaffrey out wide, and then or in the slot, and then all of a sudden you could rotate them in the mid, do some play out movement before the snap.
We have such. I mean, Matt Rule versatility, versatility, versatility. That's what he likes in his players. We have so much versatility in our skill positions, and they're not using it.
Yeah,
We could really be a dynamic offense. We really
I mean,
could.
you could run a four receiver set with a tight end blocking, have Laviska Chenault. You don't even have to have Christian McCaffrey out on the field. You could run him back behind to get a handoff. They're
Mm-hmm.
probably going to spread out at that point. Worst case scenario, you get to find out if they're in zone or man, anyways, to call the
Right.
play, do an RPO at that point. I mean, I don't know. This
Yeah.
is
I
me
mean,
just spitball.
we don't do a lot of pre-snap motion. There's just a lot of things that this offense really needs to get more dynamic. Honestly. Um, but you mentioned J.J. Watt. Let's go ahead and talk about the offensive line here for the Panthers versus the Cardinals defensive line. The Cardinals defensive line is not very good.
Mm-mm.
J.J. Watt is the only player on that team to record a sack this season. He's got 2. The Cardinals as a team have 2 sacks in 3 games. Uh, Theoretically, the Panthers should have time. I mean, Baker should have time. The offensive line should be able to handle this Cardinals defensive line. The problem is, especially in the run game, the Panthers' offensive line is not creating a lot of holes. The Panthers' run game is averaging less than 1 yard per carry before contact. That is 100% on the offensive line.
And
Can't blame
CMC
that one
has
on
back to
Baker.
back. CMC has 2 100-yard games. That's how good he is. Just
Yeah,
just want to put that out there.
that's right. You're 100% right. I mean, I didn't even think about that, but that's wild. You're right. Holy crap. Um, so yeah, let's work on creating some holes for the running backs. Again, we've played pretty good defensive lines so far this season. I feel like this is the first one where we have a distinct advantage, our offensive line versus their defensive line.
Yeah, I'm not even very familiar with their defensive line besides JJ Watt. I've been pulling up their
Well, they run basically like a three, three,
it, it
four
it's
essentially.
a 3-4. I have Fotu and Allen as their other defensive line,
Yeah.
and then you have is Simmons not starting for them? Isaiah Simmons?
Is he hurt?
No, I don't think he's hurt. He's just not starting for them because I'm showing their linebackers as Kennard, Vigil, Collins, and Golden, and I'm going by
Yeah,
PFF.
Vigil's starting of Simmons. That's
Oh,
weird.
okay, okay,
Boy, we really wanted Simmons too that draft. He turns out he might not be that good.
yeah. Hey,
Well, all right. What's our last key here, Jerry?
the Panthers need to shut down the Cardinals in the fourth quarter. especially if they have the lead. They tend to give up a one-score lead and let other teams get back in the game. Last week, it was only a one-score game, and I think without that Laviska Shenault 90-yard touchdown or 76-yard touchdown, I think the game's a different story. It's a 13-6 or 7, and we give it back to them, and their offense all of a sudden in the fourth quarter gained like 200 passing yards.
Well, you're assuming that if Laviska doesn't score, the Panthers don't do anything that drive. I don't think that's a fair assumption to make.
Have you seen this offense this year?
You don't think they could put together a 15-yard drive, Jerry? No, I agree with you. I agree with you. That's why I think we need to see Laviska more. But continue. Sorry.
No, I mean that's basically it. I mean, the Cardinals have scored nearly half of their points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And the Panthers give up 9 points per game in the fourth quarter. So you talked about they're a slow starting team, but they do finish pretty good. So
yeah, that's going to be the key. Like, shut them down early in the game, shut them down late in the game.
Keep them further away than that soft zone coverage in the fourth quarter that we play against the Saints. I mean, you can't play that way.
Play to win. Don't play not to lose. Play to win.
That's unfortunately a problem we've seen with Phil Snow's defense. It happened the first year, but we are also saying, hey, they don't have the players. We now have the players to not play that soft zone all the time, especially when we have a small lead. A 1 or 2 possession lead is not comfortable with 5 minutes left in a game in the NFL.
Agreed, Jerry. Agreed. All right. Any other kind of thoughts before we get into our predictions?
I really want this game. I don't. I'm still think that this team's going to be long-term future better without Matt Rule getting fired. Man, I love beating the Cardinals.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard to root against your team this early in the season, where
especially when there's so much talent on it.
Right. I mean, I know we all hate Matt Rule. We all want Matt Rule to go. We hate him as a coach, not as a person. But I'm not there yet to where I'm rooting against us to spite Matt Rule. I'm just not there yet. Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about our beer bet of the week.
Beer bet of the week.
I don't remember what we chose. What was it?
It was DJ Moore receiving yards.
That's right. DJ Moore receiving yards.
Now, do you want to set this? What do you want to set this at?
Man, I mean, I feel like we could set it at 30 and that would be reasonable. You want to set it at like 65?
65 sounds good to me. Okay, do you want to take the over or under?
I'll take the under.
Man, I would have gotten the under too. I'll take the over then.
No, I'll take the over because it'll go with my bold prediction. So I assumed you wanted to take the over. I'll take the over.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take the over. All right, so DJ Moore, over under 65 receiving yards. Steven's got the over. Jerry's got the under. Bold prediction time. I'll go ahead and start since I sort of spoiled mine a little bit. I think that the passing game is going to get on point this week. I think Baker Mayfield, you mentioned how the Cardinals' pass defense is not very good. They're giving up a lot of passing yards. This feels like one of those, woke up feeling dangerous games for Baker. I think he has over 300 passing yards. I'll go and say I think over 100 of those goes to DJ Moore. I think a lot of them go to CMC as well. But I just think Baker, he really puts it all together. And we come out of this week feeling really, really good about Baker and the offense in general.
I like that. I hope that happens. Because right now, my feelings on the offense are not the greatest.
No, I agree.
Yeah. My bold prediction is we hold Kyler Murray to under 125 yards passing. I think JC locks him up, Marquise Brown, as much as we put him on him. But for the most part, he's just going to avoid him. I think the other corners step up and play better than they did last week towards the end of the game, but they'll play like they did in the first 3 quarters of that game. And they'll really rattle him in the passing game. And they're going to have to rely on Connor and Kyler Murray's legs to try to save themselves.
Yeah, we haven't even really mentioned James Conner, but he has not been having a very good season. So, as his fantasy owner, I understand this. All right, let's talk about our game predictions. Jerry, go ahead and kick it off.
Oh, why do you say? I always end up not having my numbers in my head right now. I'm actually picking the Panthers, even though I said last week I probably should stick with the
Oh, jeez, you've ruined it. You've doomed
uh,
us, Jerry.
23-16 Panthers.
23-16. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to pick the Panthers as well. And I genuinely think the Panthers will win this game. This is not a
I
homer pick.
did.
I genuinely think the Panthers will win. Well, yeah, we know you think the Panthers win because you've picked against them. So far, I have not. So, but I do think the Panthers will win this game. I think they'll put up 30. I think it's gonna be a 30 burger this week. 30-17 Panthers.
Oh wow, 30 points.
I
I don't
know,
think I've
right?
seen the Panthers hit that in a long
That's what I'm
time.
saying. This is gonna be the Baker show this week. It's gonna be fun. All right. Well, let's take a quick spin around the rest of the NFC South and quickly look at the other games here. We've got a London game this week, Jerry, the early morning breakfast game, we like to call it. The Minnesota Vikings against the New Orleans Saints. I think this is going
Woo!
to be a fun game. I hope
I
it's going to
wonder
be a
if
fun game.
I wonder if Jameis is gonna play like he did last time he was in London against
Last
the
time he was in
Panthers.
London, it didn't turn out too well for Jameis.
Nope, he threw a lot of interceptions,
Yeah,
but
five,
it could be a fun
five
game.
interceptions.
I'm kind of interested in Minnesota. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, their offense is weird. Um, sometimes it explodes, and sometimes it does nothing. So it could be a really fun, high-scoring game, or it could kind of be a snooze fest. So we'll see. Who you think wins that game?
I'm hoping Minnesota. I
Vikings.
really
Yeah.
think Minnesota. I think I said this in our season preview. I didn't understand why people were so high on New Orleans with a
Yeah.
whole new coaching staff and with a quarterback who hasn't done it yet.
Yeah.
I like Kamara, and I know they had a good defense last year, and they're keeping the defensive coordinator. But I felt like people were just jumping on them way too much.
I got in so many arguments on Twitter and Reddit
You
about
like
the
to get on
Saints.
Twitter. I've read some of the things, vehemently disagreed with some of your tweet posts that you're coming out as
Mhm.
MeowMix, and I'm less like, one day I'm just gonna come in and say, as the co-host, I disagree with his
Listen,
statement here.
I have considered doing that to several of your tweets as well.
I
But no, but I mean, early in the season, like I didn't understand where all the Saints love was coming from. I mean, a huge question mark at quarterback. Their coach has a terrible track record as a head coach. Sean Payton is not there anymore. That offense was obviously going to be different.
It's not Bruce Arians hanging out in the upper management coming down on the
Right,
field all the time.
right. This is not that scenario. So I was I'd love to see the Saints drop to 1-3. I think that would be hilarious. All right, next game here, Cleveland at Atlanta. I think we both probably figure Cleveland's going to win that one.
Yeah, Cleveland's looking pretty good with Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett is like the 10th highest QBR in the game
Yeah,
so
I mean
far.
he's taking care of the ball, running the ball. That's good. That's
Yeah,
what that team needs.
yeah. And then probably the marquee game of this week, Kansas City at Tampa Bay. Is it going to be in Tampa Bay, though? That's the question.
Hopefully,
Supposedly, if not, it's going to be in Minnesota.
yeah. I lived in Tampa Bay. I have some friends still there, and for them, I do hope it is because that means that the storm didn't cause much
Destroy
damage
everything.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this game will be very fun to watch because Tampa Bay has probably one of the best defenses in the league,
Mm-hmm.
and Kansas City's offense hasn't been clicking, but at any moment it can
Yeah.
click.
They'll
So,
figure it out at some point.
I'm kind of
Yeah,
curious
Kansas
how they do. Sorry.
seems like you remove, the spark plug from that offense in Hill, and that they don't really know what they are right now. I don't think Kansas City.
Yeah.
So, but they have a decent defense as well. So that should be an interesting game. Tom Brady's not looked very good this season either. So Tampa's offense has not gone explosive yet either.
No, those two wins are by their defense.
Yeah.
I think that I saw that they have averaged like what was it? I forget. It was something crazy. Like their defense has given up like 21 points in the 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, and they've not been healthy, the offense.
No.
So I think they were missing their top three receivers last week or
Well,
something.
that
So
that's one of the things that happens when you get, future Hall of Famers on the last year of their career
yeah,
jumping on board.
yeah. And then we talked about it in our season preview that their wide receivers are already kind of injury prone. So and
Yeah.
they're already showing that this year. So all right, well I think that's gonna do it, Jerry.
Yep, we want to thank everyone for listening. If you like the show, please let your friends know. Please follow us on Twitter at MeowMix Podcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at mailbag@meowmixpodcast.com. If you leave us a 5-star review with a comment on Apple Podcasts, we'll read it on our show. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, and please support our sponsor, CBDX.com. Code word meow, 20% off.
All right, we'll be back on Sunday, I guess Sunday evening, since this is a 4:05 game, to recap the game. And until then, everybody stay safe out there. Batten down the hatches. Hurricane Ian is coming.
Yeah, please be safe. Anybody in
Yeah.
Florida listening, it's a big one. They're saying so. Please be
It's
safe.
already there. They already know. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the time you're listening to this, it'll probably have already blown through. So hopefully you made it. Hopefully you made it. Until next time, keep pounding.